Good afternoon, and welcome to Beware of Spoilers. I am Adam. It is September 30th. We are almost at the end of the year. I mean, arguably we are at the end of the year. I don't know why they did this with the Penguin. And that was kind of the thing, like, that kind of baffled me about this. Because, like, what happened was I went up to watch it on Thursday night, because last week came out on Thursday night, or the week before came out on Thursday night, so I go up, so I gotta watch it, and it's not on there. And then I fell asleep. I think I dreamt that I watched it, but either way, I woke up the next morning, I was like, alright, let's do the review of the Penguin, and my battery was dead in my phone, my little recorder, and I was like, alright, so whatever, we'll do what it is. Which is good that I didn't, because I didn't actually watch the episode. I dreamt I did. Or I thought I did. Because everything's kind of been blurring together a little bit. But regardless, the point is, it's why on Friday, when I talked about Megalopolis, I was like, this is what I was going to, I was going to talk about this morning. I didn't. This is why my recorder was dead. And then I went on Friday night. I'm like, let me rewatch it before I do it. And then it was new episode Sunday. And I was like, oh, okay. Which brings me to my point with this, which is why would you start it on Thursday and then go over a week before the next episode? That feels like a bad idea. I don't know why that was the way it is, unless maybe I don't understand the distribution plan, where maybe it was designed where it was okay, so we're going to have one episode on Thursday. That's going to be a preview for Prime member, or not Prime, for a preview for Max members, and then we're going to release it on HBO a few days later, and then that's going to be a release date, which is possible, I guess, but I didn't look too deeply into it to be why did they do that? Because it's just kind of I watched it, and then I don't know about anyone else, but once you watch an episode, do you pay any attention to what's on the screen in front of you when you're backing out back to the main menu of whatever streaming service you're watching? I don't. I mean, I know for damn certain I don't. But regardless, it came out yesterday, so I watched it yesterday, and this character Theo Rossi's playing, whose name I'm forgetting, it's definitely Hugo Strange. And I think that's the other thing we're able to show. Last week we talked about how we're dealing with a power vacuum. We're dealing with a power vacuum in the criminal underworld of Gotham. And to that end, we're in this weird place where all of these characters are kind of trying to vie for this little bit of power, while at the same time they are, and that's what this whole thing comes down to. It is all about who's going to do what to who to grab hold of what small amount of power. And that's what the show's about. And broadly, for what this means for Gotham, is this gives the potential where a major villain could rise, and that could be the bad guy for Batman in his solo movie coming out, or not solo movie, in the sequel coming up. This is context that provides that information, so I don't have to re-thread it in the next movie. That all kind of tracks for me, and I kind of get all of that. This episode expands a lot on kind of the feeling we get around Arkham in this universe, which I feel is important. We talked about it last week, or we talked about it on 30-minute reviews when I talked about what worked about the Batman movie. This idea that Arkham Asylum is dovetailed in with with the Wayne family. The idea that, the greatest savior of Gotham, Batman, is born of the two things that create most of its problems. Number one, the substantial wealth inequality that comes from the Wayne family basically owning the city, and the fact that the Arkham family had this asylum that was not actually treating patients, just continually making the problems worse and worse. So I think that, when I hear about them working on an Arkham Asylum show, I very much want to see that. I want to see how Arkham Asylum works in this universe, and this episode gives us just a little taste of it through Kristen Milioti's character, Sophia Falcone. And I think that she's the standout for me in this. I have only ever seen her in How I Met Your Mother in the last season. I know she was in an episode, I think I said this exact thing last week. I think she was in an episode of Black Mirror that I haven't watched, and I think she was in Palm Springs, that movie with Andy Samberg. That was like the Sundance Darling a few years ago. But to me, she's the standout here. I know Colin Farrell can act, and I know he can put on a clinic when given the opportunity to cue the scenery, because we've seen him do it so many times before, including in the movie this is a sequel to, because he does it expertly in The Batman when he's playing this same character. So all of that kind of tracks for me to the point where I'm like, okay, I see how all of this kind of works already. All the pieces are there, and all of that stuff. Now, she's the standout because she's playing this psychotic in this very subdued role, who's kind of starting to come into her own as this major player in the Gotham underworld. And that's kind of what we're starting to see. So we're starting to see the positioning of the Falcones, who is the other one? I forgot the name of the crime family that is like the main one they're dealing with. And she's not. No, she is the Falcones. The other one. But like, all of these characters are kind of starting to vie for this little bit of space. And I think that what we're looking at for a lot of these first two episodes is, I think that what it's going to come down to is this idea that was kind of established in the very beginning of the first episode, in that fantastic cold open of episode 1, where he's talking to the son who inherited everything, and he's talking about his aspirations being like the kind of old-timey gangster, the Don Corleones of the world. I know he didn't actually exist, but like that kind of character, like that's what is aspirational for him. That kind of gangster, the respected gangster that everyone loves, and he's beloved in his community, and he's going to be he's going to be, that's what he wants to be. And I think that one of the things that's going to end up happening by the end of this show is he's going to be in way over his head. Because we're going to be in a Gotham that is not a sustainable choice for, who can run and take control of this criminal enterprise on this vast a level. And that's going to be the big thing we got going on here. I like a lot of the, I think that his Brooklyn accent gets grating, and I think that we're going to start getting into a law of diminishing returns when it comes to his interactions with his mother. I feel like that's something that's going to not grate on me, but it is something that's going to kind of slowly come apart at the seams and be like, well, why are we doing this? Why are we still dealing with this? Like, I get it's meant to like ground him and give something, but like at the same time, doesn't have to be a sympathetic character. This is the Penguin. Like, this is not some guy and his fall. He's not Walter White, where Walter White starts out as a sympathetic character and becomes a monster. This is a guy we're introduced to as, this is Oswald Cobblepot. He is DC Comics' The Penguin. And now he's leading a TV show called The Penguin. Like, we don't need, we should feel bad for him because he had a rough upbringing. I don't care about any of that. He is The Penguin. He is, he's here to, he's here to make as much money through drug trafficking as possible. Like, I don't know if he makes it through this show. I wouldn't be surprised if he ended up dying by the end of it. I'm going to be completely honest. I think that, like, if this show was just about, and we've said this before, talking about, like, when we talk about the Bad Batch, the idea that show probably should have been, like, a funeral procession in the last season, where it's like, these characters are all headed to their death, and we, the audience, kind of know that. So, like, let's just watch as that happens. Or, like, kind of what Catching Fire is. The Hunger Games book, Catching Fire. Where it's like, it's this slow progression through the games, where it's like, this is not meant to be cool and bombastic, which the movie, I mean, look, at the end of the day, they had Chad Stahelski directing the action, so, like, I get how that ended up happening, but that wasn't the intent of the book, not to be more high-octane action. It's meant to be this slow, methodical picking off of these characters that are all friends, and it's a funeral dirge. That's what I feel like this show could end up being, as he's kind of training the next generation and being like, look, you're in the position I was. And the soft spot he keeps showing for this kid, I feel like is gonna end up being his undoing. Because when you get a character who's built like this in the city of Gotham, I feel like, again, I said it before, he's too anachronistic for what kind of criminal underworld Gotham is. He's a man out of time. He's someone who very much wants to bring things back the way they were, and wants that old-timey kind of power dynamic. But at the same time, he is, he's not built for the current era. Like, he's acting very much like he's in The Godfather or Goodfellas or something like that, where it's in the 50s, the 60s, the 70s, but that is just not where Gotham is. And I feel like that's going to ultimately be his undoing, and it's also going to be this idea that, like, well, he has a protege, that's something that happens. They have, like, this is the person who's going to one day inherit everything I do. And it's like, look, I'm not saying that they don't actually have that in more modern criminal syndicates, but at the same time, to say that he is, to say that he is doing a good job with keeping things in order here is probably not an accurate statement. I don't think that, the whole thing is, like, this kid proved himself to be a liability today. Or in this episode, he proved himself to be a liability. The thing he asked him to do, plant the jewels in the car, he failed at, and ended up almost blowing the entire operation. So that's gonna be like, and it's like, and he doesn't kill him. He's like, look, he throws him down in the ditch with the other bodies. That's a great moment where he throws it, like, do you want to be down there? Like, don't close your eyes. Look at what this is. These men are dead because you made a bad decision, and you couldn't do what you had to. So, do you want to end up down there with him? It's a great moment where it's like, it's simultaneously Oswald being kind of ruthless and being kind of fucked up. But at the same time, it's showing a level of mercy that I think is more than we need from this character. Especially considering the number of times now the kid has been spared. Like, I'm not saying we need to kill the kid immediately, but I think ultimately leaving the kid alive is going to be his undoing. And I don't know, there is rumors of a Robin being in, being in, the Batman Part 2. I've seen that rumor get thrown around. I don't know if the script is done, so I don't know about the efficacy of that rumor. But if that's the case, could this kid end up being Robin? Because, again, we have the same thing like in Agatha, where in Agatha, teen... I mean, look, spoilers for Agatha, because I know this isn't the feed for, or the episodes about it, but, I mean, the kid is clearly Tommy. Like, and the way they're handling it is just so weird, because it's like, clearly the kid's Tommy, and if you just said, hi, I don't know how this happened, but I'm Tommy, I am Wanda's son. I don't know how this happened, but here I am, I'm alive, I would like, to bring my mother back. And she said that to Agatha. I feel like Agatha would go along with the plan. I don't think that you need to hide this from Agatha. But either way, they're playing it so weird. And they just keep calling him teen. And it's like, what? They couldn't, like... It's so annoying and dumb. But either way, the point I'm trying to make is, like, that kid is kind of a puzzle box. he is the mystery box at the center of the episode. He is, or at the center of the show. He's here to be something for you to speculate on every week and talk about and be like, oh, who could this kid be? And it's like, it's clearly Tommy. Like, if that's the case, and that's where we're going with this, like, I feel like this kid has enough mystery around his origin that I'm kind of like, well, this could be Robin, where it's like they're intentionally holding back information. I don't think it's gonna be like, and my parents were once trapeze artists, and my name is Dick, and like, I don't think we're gonna get to that point. And I also think we're gonna get to the point where it's like, The Dark Knight Rises, where it's like, oh, well, why don't you go by this name, Robin? Like, I think that that's kind of what this is gonna end. Like, this kid, I could see realistically working with Batman. And I think the issue that I have with this is, if I consider his knowledge of the criminal underworld, and again, we have the Batman-sized hole in the narrative. They've still yet to explain why Batman is not dealing with this. Now, there hasn't really been too much bombastic happening. I mean, no, that's not true. There was a fucking drug movement happening in this, and it's like, look, I get it's not the Riddler, so maybe it's not on his radar yet, and maybe he's not really dealing with this properly. But like, what's going on here? Like, and again, at the end of the Batman, he's back to being Batman. He's saying his goodbyes to Catwoman in costume. So, like, yeah, he's bad. It's not like he's injured somewhere, and it's not like it's Goku after fighting Vegeta, and he's got to kind of hang out and just kind of heal up a bit while everyone else does stuff, and then he comes back to save the day. Like, no, he's alive in somewhere, but I'm not entirely sure where. Even if it was just like news things saying like, oh, and Bruce Wayne's doing X, Y, and Z, where it's like, oh, that's the mask he's wearing during this, and that's the whole debate over which is the mask. Is it the Batman mask, or is Bruce Wayne who is the hero and who is the secret identity? Obviously, like, could that be what's going on here? I don't know, because the show's not telling me, and that's leaving me in a situation where I'm like, but this Batman, as established in this movie, would be trying to stop this stuff. Like, you haven't made, like, how is he not finding out about a major shipment of a brand new kind of street drug and being like, oh shit, we have to stop this? Like, the plot of this episode, like the beginning plot of this episode where Oz kind of fucks the whole thing up intentionally, so that way he can reclaim the drugs and kind of establish his own empire. Like, that's like a season 2 Arrow plot. Like, and it's like the midway point of the episode because Oliver can't stop it in time. Like, it's not it's the kind of thing where it's like, why is he not there? It's just kind of weird. But we'll wrap up there for today. We have more DC. I'm not going to call it fun. We have more DC stuff happening today. Batman Folie à Deux, which I am fairly certain I am mispronouncing, but I'm going to continue mispronouncing for the foreseeable future. Joker 2, Folie à Deux, we'll be talking about tonight. And we'll be doing, I think we're definitely probably doing Homegrown. There's another movie we might be doing on Sunday, but the tickets are rush only now, so I may not be able to get in. But I think we're going to have something fun tacked on to another episode of So. I'm working out details, I'm working out how it's going to work, but definitely going to be doing, Homegrown I can definitely get tickets to, but the other one, maybe not. We'll see. But I'll keep everyone posted as the week goes on. And actually, probably by the time I do Joker tonight, we'll have a concrete answer for that. But we'll wrap up there for today. Until our next episode, have a great rest of your week.